All right, everybody's here. It's new. Let's get going. So we get in here and get out of here. Let's start with the board minutes from last month. They're in front. If anybody's got any questions, corrections. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Staying.
Wow, okay. Fair enough. We have those once in a while. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But we, for those of you who don't know, we have a new member of the board that's taking Chris's position. That's recommended from Tonganoxie. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
Anything opening statement you'd like to make?
No, excited to be involved and provide insight and learn from you all as well. So I know there's a lot going on in the county and have long been have long understood how important economic development is to all of our local communities. So looking forward to being a part of that.
Big shoes to fill.
Oh, absolutely. Not gonna fill them, I'll just kind of walk beside them.
Yeah, we kind of put, even though he resigned, we told him he could just go across it. We get him out when we need him.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So welcome aboard, Bill. Treasurer's report said.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna be talking to the Excel format first. Income from commercial, interest off checking was 8192. The 1735 was income from our CDs. And the 169,595 was for the project mission lot 7 sale. So we've got all that. And that is where the cash and checking comes from, because we have not done anything with the lot buyback, which Lisa will be discussing a little bit later. On the expensive side, general maintenance is both from Gary Carson, Urban Hess. Gary Carson was 1325, Urban Hess was 1150, coming up to 2475. The 15778, 125 was Tallgrass, Eversy was 3278. And that's where the expenses were. Any questions on income or expenses? If there's no questions, I think we need a motion to approve the financing.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion second. Any all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries then. All right, we'll move forward to, did you want to talk about that CD at all? What? The mutual CD. For Jared Thompson.
Well, we got the interest,
Yeah,
we talked
and
about.
we just let it roll.
Okay. But it goes into a separate account, right? When it rolls?
Yes.
Okay. And Lisa, I guess you're up.
So projects and leads. I'm not sure if I have this new design last month, but our newer marketing company has been helping us with a few things, and this is just one of them. Hopefully it's a little easier to read. The new projects this in June, we had how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So project activity is definitely still high. We're continuing to see that in the month of July as well. It just keeps coming. And so of those 7, 4 became active. Project Blow and Project Blast, these came in from the same person as a result of our most recent email blast. So once a quarter, we send out to over 300 real estate agents, developers, that's people nationally, a marketing brochure for one of our major industrial parks. And this time it was Leavenworth Business and Technology Parks turn. And that was one of the other things that Karuna did for us. They redesigned our email blast for that park. We got it sent out. And then I immediately had inquiries from one of our investors, that's a developer in Kansas City, and asking more questions. So it brought interest. So I always think that's a positive thing. And both Blow and Blast are 2 different projects, 2 different clients that he's working with that are looking for sites. Had a real estate search. This was a client looking for a minimum of 8 acres up to 20 acres. I remember correctly, that needed to be shovel-ready industrial property. And for a manufacturing operation, we submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park and the Tonganoxie Business Park for those. Project Jersey, this is a startup manufacturer looking for up to 4,000 square feet for office R&D and creating a prototype. So we submitted, we looked at our property database because I didn't know any right off the top of my head. And I found 2 sites, both in Tonganoxie, and we submitted both of them, privately owned buildings. And I came back, one was eliminated right from the start, but one is shortlisted. So I've been working with that private owner and, you know, making sure that they have pictures, and we're hoping to experience a site visit next week, end of July. Project Resin is a Casey Realtor searching for an existing building, 300,000 square feet. We do not have that available, so I did not submit anything, and then I reported on our chart on the back for those requests for existing buildings. So we have data for the sizes of buildings being requested. Project preliminary search, that's usually because these projects don't come in with a name, and they actually call them a preliminary search. This is a Casey broker searching for a minimum of 85 acres for a distribution center. And I just felt, since, you know, we had a couple of industrial parks that are close to that, I went ahead and submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park, Epic Estates in Lansing, and the Tailgate Ranch. I sent them a brochure for that. And then CBRE, this is a realtor in Kansas City. They just are doing a general search for sites of 300 acres or more. And we didn't have any. I just thought I'd try, and submitted the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park, and then 2 privately owned sites as well. Ongoing projects, the ones I probably will mention, Project Western, we went ahead. This is an existing company exploring options to expand and build a potentially a 30,000 to 40,000 square foot facility. And so we shared some information about the Gary Carlson Business Center, about the Lansing Business Center, which has a spot that could fill that, a privately owned site on Gilman, and then Epic Estates. And then I think Project Mission, which is our success, our win. Right now, they're working with the site prep engineers to look at building that new building down there in the Gary Carlson Business Center, working with the city of Leavenworth on that process. And we have a list of local builders that we're submitting to them, because they expressed interest in working with local developers. I think that is it on my projects and leads. We've had a really active year for new projects in inquiries. Other things, let's see, where's my list? Couple other things. So we finalized for LCPC, we finalized all of our requests for 2027 funding and submitted those to the cities of Lansing, Leavenworth, and Tonganoxie. And then upon request, we presented that funding request to the city of Leavenworth at their budget hearing recently. And then on behalf of you all, we went ahead and submitted your 2027 funding request to the county. And then Doug and I brought that in front of the county commission as well at their budget hearing. Industrial loan program, that's our new initiative to try and encourage. This is a loan program that cities were interested in seeing us bring back. It was an old program that was called the Spec Building Loan Program, and now we're bringing that initiative back, looking, figuring out how we can do that. This is to encourage new building construction and to help expand the tax base. And so we spent a few of our meetings kind of getting feedback from our cities, making sure they're on board with what we're doing. And we had our final meeting with the city of Leavenworth this month. And then we had a second meeting with the Industrial Loan Program Committee to kind of bring all that feedback together and then start designing that program. So hopefully we'll be finalizing that over the next couple of months. Investor relations is always an important part of our job. We're always looking for ways to increase our private investment. So we've met with about 3 prospective investors this month. And then also with an existing investor, just to make sure that we're, maintaining those relationships with our investors. Marketing and communications, we continue meeting with our marketing company every week. And as I said, they've helped us with our new projects and leads report. They've helped us put together the new email blast for the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. I think the next one that will be rolling out will be for the Urban Hess Business and Technology, Urban Hess Business Center. And then they recently, they did a lot of promotional materials for our inaugural clay shoot. And then they just finished, and we need to finalize the second quarter newsletter that will be coming out real soon. And then finally, you'll be seeing information about our upcoming golf tournament in September. So the clay shoot, that was our first time ever doing a clay shoot. We did that in June, and that was at Powder Creek Shooting Park. And we had 10 teams that competed, and we felt like it was a really good success. That park, they're really good at the organization and coordination of that program. And we feel like we're looking forward to, we've learned a few lessons, and we think we'll be doing that again next spring. So if you're maybe interested in doing that, getting a team together, look for that information. And then finally, we've been working on developing relationships with community leaders, specifically county commission candidates. And so this month we've met with David Todd and Sarah George. And gosh, I think that might be it. Any questions about the things I've reported on today? I think there were, did you have something?
Nope.
Okay. One thing I did want to bring up to you all is tomorrow, I understand that the county commission will be considering extending a moratorium on data center development in Leavenworth County. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, so of course, I think for LCDC and the Port Authority, it's important for us to advocate for economic development. So what I see, I wanted to bring this before you and see what your thoughts are, that I would go and speak to advocate for economic development during the public comment. My intention would be to talk about the significant impact this project could have on Leavenworth County, and that we would like to encourage the commission to consider continuing conversations rather than saying no. Continue conversations and seeing if there's a way that our county can make this work for both the company and for the community. And then I'd like to see what you all think about that.
Are you going to talk about the guidelines, including the guidelines system?
I didn't see it on there. Most of it, the discussion last 3 or 4 meetings about moratorium, people wanting to push further down the road. So what we mainly talking is discussing, that, personal feeling on it. I'm not against data centers. No, I'm kind of watching everything on right now, see what's going on. I definitely agree with Lisa that we need to keep the communications open and talk about it some more. And I can't speak for the county commissioners, but I would think that we'd want to continue coming in, sitting down, talking, but also bringing in the people that are the experts. And I know there's been some talk about bringing in more people. I think with what's going to happen in the city, it's already started happening, is eventually the federal government's going to take charge of that, and it's not going to be the state's calling. So I think it's better for us to get ahead of this, no matter which way we're going. So we'll see how it plays out, and I can't tell you how this is going to end up. If they wanted to go a couple months, I'd like to get this decision made before I leave office. And it depends who you ask, if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it'll be a good discussion. There'll probably be a packed house. We've had some really rowdy people up there. I've had to ask for deputies to come in. Everybody's civil, This is such an emotional issue with everybody, which I understand, it's their land. But they're probably a pretty good sized tax house to follow, as usual, that's been for the last 8 months.
The reason why I asked, on the planning and zoning for the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah.
And, we went over the guidelines and, we recommended approval of the guidelines. And you should be seeing that soon.
Well, usually when that happens, we get it approved and then the following week, which would be next week, would be the time we discuss it. That's what usually works. So I'm glad you guys went over it. Good. Well, we kicked it back, thought about something.
Does it matter if you who are you speaking for? LCPA, LCDC, both?
Well, I'd kind of like to talk, I'm sorry,
Economic.
yes, so, and that would include both organizations.
Looks like she did, correct me if I'm wrong, when she went down to the sand pit. She spoke primarily, we're not positive, negative, we're simply pointing out this is economic development for the county that we have to strongly consider.
That's a good way to present it. You did a good job on that, I said, we'll try that before then.
I agree, Lisa. I think it'd be good. I appreciate you doing it.
And go.
Okay,
I mentioned to Lisa from LCDC, I think the right be out front, say we are in support of economic development, but also mention the fact that the developer agreement is when all those details could be worked out at a later time. And if you shut off, put a moratorium, you never even get to those developer agreements to figure out what benefits we may ever get out of these. So I think that was a point we need to make sure to bring up, that there's still opportunities to put guardrails in on any project that ever comes up at a future time. It's called a development agreement, and that would be the opportune time to everybody to voice their opinion on things. So I would definitely bring that up. That's sometimes public doesn't understand there's extra, just because you say you can do it, doesn't mean it's open the door to everything.
Sometimes it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Get it out, but.
That's very well put.
I would like to correct you on the sometimes they don't.
Yes. Yes.
I think it is certainly an unenviable position to go up in front of everybody and talk about all the benefits, economic benefits that a project like this can bring when all of the opposition is emotional and that, we're all, their demons gonna be flying out of the building. And is that worth a few $1 million, kids are gonna have cancer, and is that worth millions of dollars? It's a very tough argument, so I think keeping that in the back of your mind as well as you're preparing those words, kind of, as you said, we're not necessarily fully on board and supportive of the project, but that it is an important game-changing opportunity for the county. And that we encourage finding a way to say yes.
Well, like Brian said, it's hard to know what you're in support of because you can't get to that point.
Yeah, that's
You know,
right, we can't even have that conversation.
And I'm speaking for myself here. It's either do you go down the route and figure this out and make the corrections, or you just bury your head in the sand
Right.
and just say.
Moratorium, no.
Right.
Yeah, I find it funny, and I'm guilty too. I'm one of those small farms where I get a tax break and everything like that, because I've got a couple of cows. Don't offer any incentives to anybody else, but keep mine, and that's a lot of the people I've seen out there in opposition. Kind of forget, well, I'm getting a tax break, why do I have to deny everything else, whether it be RHID, but that's just a personal.
And the number of people who are very against raising taxes and are very aware of their annual expense for their property, but then unwilling to accept the means to lower the property taxes.
From the economic standpoint, like the RHID stuff, and of course, we're getting off course here. You turn that down, that's another rooftop. If all we're gonna have is rooftops paying the taxes, and we need more of those rooftops.
Well, and in this case,
Yeah.
exempt ag land. But
A little off topic.
Yeah.
thank you, so I'll go ahead and speak tomorrow during the day. Thank you.
The last meeting was so short the last time,
Heard that. I'm
Didn't know what to ask.
so sorry, I have two more. So the labor shed study, so in your budget for 2026, you have an amount of $5,000 for the labor shed study. It's well overdue. Typically, a labor shed study is done every 2 to 3 years, and the last one was done in 2022. And so, if you're okay, but here's the deal, I got a proposal from Mark Snelson, who did the last one. So in this case, they would only have to do an update of what we already have. But the cost is $6,500, which just like everything else, costs are going up. I would say the value, and again, you have, the amount you have allocated for that is 5,000. So that's what I'd like to ask of you all today. I will say that the value has been shown in a couple of ways. Number one, I use the information when I respond to requests for information. A lot of times, those are questions they want to know, and it gives us, like, for instance, the last one said, at about 70% of our resident workforce is leaving Leavenworth County every day to go to work. That's a really important piece to show that there's an opportunity to attract those for incoming companies, to attract those people that might want to work closer to home. So things like that are really important. This one was really helpful because it gave a specific breakdown of, well, it did a countywide labor shed, but it also did one specifically for each of the cities. And so that was nice to have as well. Now, the other part of it is we posted this on our website. So our cities have access to the information, whether that's for, gaining data for applications for grants, all those kind of things too. So it's publicly available. So those are my thoughts. We've used them, the information over and over and over.
A couple months ago, when we split one of the CDs and brought them into for the budget, we did have some contingency money just for this purpose, so we do have the money already in the check, take care of it if y'all so choose.
So I'll make a motion to proceed with the labor sheds.
Second. Anybody opposed to the matter? Ready for it, I guess.
Real quick, should Brian and I recuse ourselves? Because where'd the money come from? LCDC, where this is all board.
Okay, motion carries, and I guess. So you got it. I know for a fact that Leavenworth and Lansing both used that study in the past, so it's absolutely, we need to keep it available.
Just a second.
Who did the second on that? I'm sorry. Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
That keeps you all from having to go to that source for that point. We want to make sure that's available. Nobody else can do it, so. You know,
Okay.
What about the buyback?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, so I wish I could say that the real estate contract is complete. I have a couple more questions that I'm asking. I'm using an expert in the real estate field to help me. There are just a few dates, closing date, effective date. I just want to be clear and make sure that we're making this a viable.
I'll believe it when it happens.
And that's why you see so much in the checking account, because we
Yes.
accommodated for that buyback, so the money's in the checking to do that with.
Well, we coincided that with when the CDs were maturing and everything like that, so we'll have to do that until we get another system. Or our funding comes back or get another source of funding. We're just gonna have to do that. Moving on then, Bill, regional transportation study perhaps, and I realize that things got pushed back, but get us informed as we can.
Well, there's not a whole lot of updates from the regional transportation study right now. The transportation program announcements have never been made by KDOT, which we're way behind schedule on that, which I assume would come out right now during the elections to try to bolster support, but I think maybe inflationary costs of these construction projects has eaten up the future funding, and maybe they don't have the money available to them at KDOT in order to announce projects. I really don't know. I haven't heard. They've been pretty tight-lipped about why they haven't done an announcement and when they are going to officially announce that. From an economic development standpoint, kind of not with the regional transportation study, but just globally. Tomorrow, there is a selection committee. Majority of the board did vote to enter into a partnership for funding with Cloverleaf to fund some initial transportation study information. So we did, after that money was deposited to the county, the Public Works Department did put out a request for qualifications for phase one of a greater 4-phase engineering analysis and construction design process in the preparation of their application and if they were subsequently ever approved. So phase one of that project will be reviewed for engineering firms, which we did only receive 2 submittals for that work because it is a fairly tight time frame. And it is also involving both transportation and sewer. So phase one involved a sewer study with the watershed. There is the opportunity for a very long gravity fed system through that area that connects clear down to I-70. And so phase one would include that sewer study and also some mill and overlay and turning lane information and design for the construction. It's not just information when it comes to the roadways, it's full design of the roadways for turning lanes, decel, XL lanes, and some mill and overlay work prior to the project. And then it would outline in the RFQ what potential phases 2, 3, and 4 would look like with phases 2. I think phase 2 is the most substantial of those phases. It's approximately 6 miles of road design and construction around that property. And so we will review those from a selection committee standpoint tomorrow and be making a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for that design work. Ultimately, if they do decide not to apply after the moratorium were to expire, or if they aren't subsequently approved, that would just be owned by the county for any future design work in that area. And so with that many acres of property, obviously there is a potential for, space for 20 Hills Pet Food Nutrition size developments to come in there if the data center weren't to come in there. So this work isn't for naught. It is a value to the county regardless of whether that is a data center to move forward. So that'll move forward the following week. It sounds like the same time we will have the potential for having the regulations that were reviewed by the planning commission before the Board of County Commissioners. It could all be at the same meeting. I assume that there'll be the same public that's been coming to the meetings will be present there in opposition of any agreement to move the project forward. But it was voted on by the Board of County Commissioners. So as staff, we are following that direction in a very expedited time frame. They would coincide with an application at the end of the current moratorium. And so with that, we also had the approval of the sand pit. And so that sand pit had a road agreement. That road agreement did piggyback off of the SS4A project. I don't know that the developer is going to, I spoke to them at the LCPA luncheon last week. I don't know if they'll be extremely happy with the time frame that those improvements will be made with their project and the way that'll all work out, but it would definitely save them millions of dollars under the current approval of the SUP. But federal processes are extremely slow. Generally speaking, without the federal bureaucracy that comes with federal money, you end up with, year 1 design, year 2 acquisition and condemnations and utility relocations, and year 3 is construction. And so with federal government, you can add another 9 months to the front end of that for finalizing the agreement. And you possibly could add some of the potential time in there. I'm assuming we'll have a lot of condemnations along that corridor. So we'll have some time frame with that. So I told them potentially 3.5 years before you actually break ground on that project. So we'll be working with their engineering team with GBA and the developer and the councils in order to find that time frame as soon as we have a time frame from the federal government. Our federal application is not a public-private partnership. So it will have to be subsequent to our federal application. That is not allowed under federal law. Other than that, the project out here, 20th Street's ongoing and we're getting a lot of bypass traffic. Sure the folks on the top of the hill on 20th Street have seen more traffic in the last couple of weeks than they've probably ever seen before in their entire life on Ohio Street with it, but it's ongoing. North-south traffic is still open. The only other thing I touch on, because it does impact infrastructure and it greatly impacts development, is Senate Bill 418 and the new state law that took effect July 1st. Really changed residential development in the short term for the state of Kansas. And so those of you who are interested in residential development, the Kansas League of Municipalities has put out some information about that, informational flyer. But it did remove a lot of the processes for residential development, both in the cities and some in the county, where it eliminated some of the home rule authority of these jurisdictions to regulate that. And it also pulled back some of the neighboring property owners' rights when it comes to protest petitions. And so they considered it a streamline in the process. And so there will be a period of time where this is in law, and then I'm sure there'll be lawsuits, and then it'll probably go to an injunction, and then it will go to court, and it'll come back into effect in a few years. But it involves building codes, right of development, and elimination of some of those offsite improvements that do affect infrastructure, as well as protest petitions and other things. It's a pretty wide sweeping bill. So it really does impact infrastructure quite a bit. For anybody interested in developing property or who's lived in that space and working with local governments, it has a huge impact. That's all I have.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I have one question for you, and it's not fair. I realize that, most of the highway funds, I want to say they're expiring, aren't they? Eisenhower Act, but they Senate put forth another big act like that to make highway funds available?
No, not to my knowledge. I believe it's 2034 is when the Ike Transportation Program hits the senior mark. So they had, and forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. They had a program before Ike. It was a 10-year program, and then they had maybe T-Works or something. And then they had the Ike Transportation Program, that's a 10-year program. And then I'm sure they'll rename it and rebrand it and continue future, but they aren't programming currently projects for construction beyond that 2034. And that's where K5 fell. We were supposed to be a 2031 project. And then at the meeting, open house they had in Lansing, they pushed that project to 2036. So effectively they pushed it into this unknown where we're outside the Ike Transportation Program currently under the current administration. I would say that is, there's a likelihood of it, depending on if a Republican were to go into the state house and we had a different secretary of transportation, that project could be moved again. There are a lot of different funding opportunities available if there was a whether it's quite frank, whether it's Ty Maston or Jeff Klemp or another Republican. I think that there are good opportunities for Leavenworth County under a new administration that don't currently exist.
That was an unfair question, but basically, if that fund runs out, we have to hope for more funding, so.
Well, there'll be funding because they're going to have continued, they fund bridges that are required by the federal government. The federal government giving them money requires them to have a program. And so they'll have pavement preservation, they have bridges, they have safety improvement funds, HSIP. They have federal funds that they're getting that require them to have a program. And so it'll really depend upon how much of the state funding is applied to it. A certain percentage has to be to meet their federal match. And so there'll be a new program. It's just they'll rebrand it, rename it.
I just didn't want anybody to get disappointed with the effort we put into that the last couple of years to get that moved up, and then kind of be pushed back was disappointing. We still have staff and So I have to say after it.
Yeah, no, I think we stay after it and then I think we see what happens by the end of the year. Because I think there's a potential that, you know, a lot of these things become political.
No. Yes. Anybody else sitting here before we move to our affiliated partners? I don't know really what to do with Tonganoxie. Who's gonna talk? George is George. George is there. George, got anything for us?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm sure Jake will clean up anything I might mess up. So from city business, we're trying to get through our budget process. Revenue neutral rate notices had to go out. The city proposed not to exceed a flat mill from the prior year. Unfortunately, we do have a city library here in Tonganoxie. I'm not sure if other communities have that. Maybe the city of Leavenworth is set up in a similar fashion, where we're essentially, the city's just a pass-through for the two mills that are collected for city operations and their city employee benefits. And they want to raise their mill levy. So and that's fine, that's their prerogative. But what happens is the county, when they send out R&R notifications, the city only gets one line item. So people will get a notice and it'll look like the city's trying to raise our tax rate. And so then we get to have those, what we air quote call how to make friend conversations with our other taxing entity buddies. School districts get a little more luxury where they have multiple line items listed, but the cities we get one. So, and Commissioner Smith, it's not a knock against the county. I'm just stating it in case anybody lives in Tongi and thinks we're raising taxes. From a development standpoint, the city's continuing to make great progress on our design for 14th Street, which is going to be a new intersection on 2440. Again, that opens up a few hundred acres of development. We've already had some pre-development meetings with two residential developers out of the metropolitan area, but they would be new to Tonganoxie. One has an option on a 40-acre site, the other on a 60-acre site for single-family development. So we're excited to see that and that the housing demand in Tongi is still really strong. And then just the last thing I'll kind of add in, we're aware of the data center project. Obviously, it's looking at a site that is literally on the other side of existing city limits. That project has approached us, telling the city that their preferred route is through annexation for access to utilities. Obviously, with the city being a water and sanitary sewer provider. So we're watching with great interest all the other activity related to utility infrastructure that's going on with that project outside of just annexation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jake. Thanks, guys.
I concur.
All right, now at the city of Leavenworth, we have a couple of you on. Nancy, Scott, who wants to take the podium?
I'll let Scott handle it.
All right, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just piggybacking off George there, our library system, George, is identical to yours. So we are also a pass through for the Leavenworth Library. We are also in the budget process. We are exceeding the revenue neutral rate, but not increasing the mill levy, instead just relying on the increase in revenue from property tax or property valuation increases. Other than that, that's going relatively smoothly. Things are somewhat stable here at the city financially. From a development standpoint, probably the big news. Late last week, we were just informed that the Centennial Bridge construction has been delayed. They were planning on starting construction in 27 and bidding in spring or maybe at the end of this year, actually. I think my understanding is they're having issues with acquiring easements and right of way. I don't know whose easements and right of way. But anyways, that is what the project delay has been. So they said maybe late 27 construction. I'm guessing that means more like early 28. And so which would lead the bridge to be open in 2030 instead of 2029. Everything else I think is I don't have much else to tell. We got lots of road work going on, so apologies for the many detours we have around town, but our construction window is limited. I take 10th and limit every day, so I'm affected too. So It's annoying for everybody, but anyways, that's all I have.
Thanks, Scott. Sherry?
Sure. I've got, a number of announcements, so hold on. Well, on June 23rd, the city made an announcement that we have McDonald's coming to town. They're gonna go in just east of the Fairway Meat and Market grocery store. And, we're really proud to announce that the development required 0 property tax abatement. So they'll be paying full property taxes to all the jurisdictions immediately. Also, more commercial development announcements are coming soon, and McDonald's is planning to open in probably early 2027. Also, we're talking about mill rates and budgets. We also announced we're considering instituting our own property tax cap program this year. It's gonna be called Basers Back to You, and it's proposed for the 2027 budget that we'll consider in August. And basically, the program would rebate back to the property owner any additional city property taxes that they've paid above a 3% increase. There's no proposed income restrictions or age restrictions. The only proposed restriction is the property must be residential, owner occupied, and not delinquent on any fees to the city. Also, new construction would be exempt from the program for 18 months. And analysis, when we completed the analysis, it indicates that a growing community like ours is beneficial to our existing property owners to institute a cap instead of reducing the mill rate. Also, we had an inquiry from the Kansas Government Finance Officers Association, and it was sent out asking all cities and counties what they intend to do with their budgets. And they were asking for sales tax trends. We were pleased to be able to say that, and we're also grateful that our sales tax collections have continued to increase and probably will continue to with our commercial development. Also, I think some other cities here have done this, but we just started a Citizens Academy. We have 15 residents that are attending our first academy. We just had County Attorney Todd Thompson speak at our last class, and he did a presentation on Cora and Coma. And for any of the cities that have done this or are doing this, if you've got any feedback or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. Road construction, the roadway project at 158th and Parallel is expected to be finished on or before July 31st. Unfortunately, this project has seen a lot of delays, so we're really excited to get this open for the community. We received our scores back from our application to the Mid-America Regional Council's Planning Sustainable Places. And our application for a State Avenue multimodal connectivity and safety corridor study. We scored very well. Also, Baser is supporting the Leavenworth County Mobility Plan application. So we hope to see our whole county be successful with these applications. And then finally, the city just received a grant from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for $31,256. And this is going to be used to purchase a wood chipper. So instead of us burning our brush out at the brush dump, this will actually let us chip up the wood and make our own mulch. So that's kind of what we've got going on for right now. Thank you.
That's Citizens Academy. I started out in Lansing, I was a city manager 20-something years ago. That is one of the best things you can do if you do it right. It really, the people that come through when I was doing it, and this is probably some of the other ones, was the people that maybe had a little beef with the city. But once they went in and we took them to every site, wastewater, finance, something like that, I guarantee you about 90% of them had a different outlook on that. So they can be some of your best people going out in the community. But it was all, that's, I'm glad to hear that. That's just, I think it's a very positive thing that you are doing.
Okay, good.
Along with your other stuff.
Okay, no, thanks. No, we wanted to hear if any other cities had any comments, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Josh?
Hi. Let's see, we've got a big portion of our comp plan project coming up over in the next month or so, probably a half. We're gonna have a 2-day project, charrette, where we're gonna have the residents of the city come in and figure out what it means to build a city. And focus on economic development and cost of development and how we can balance city want, what the residents want, what the city needs in order to maintain growth and, infrastructure. We are in the process of selecting a contract or a developer team, a development team to work on a housing project at Bittersweet and Mary, right next to the Aquatic Center. We got a couple of applications on the 2nd of July, so we're excited about that. Details forthcoming on that. It's we're looking for the right partner and we'll figure out the housing project itself on the back end. What that's gonna look like, but we're shooting for somewhere around 50 to 60 units on that project. See what else we got, mill and overlay, upcoming budget stuff, obviously. Other than that, moving along.
I'm fixing that gutter in front of my house, thinking that I talked to Mike, I am so thankful.
All right, I'll pass that on.
He said he couldn't do it because I was a mayor at one time, the city administrator and the county commissioner, Mike, it looks like favoritism. Well, I'm going out, so now we can fix it.
You've got podium now anyway.
Okay, I got, by the way, you guys are doing a good job out there, really impressed. We talked about some hot issues, the data center and the other things that are going on. This year, we're going, first time Lumber County's. I believe everything stays on track, so you'll go revenue neutral. And you say, why couldn't you do revenue neutral 2 years ago? Well, first of all, 2 years ago, our roof fell. So we had to do that. And one of the reasons we're able to is because the funds that we've been receiving back from investments and the buildings and houses in the county have been very high. In fact, we're number 2 for the last, I forgot how many years. But with Baser, but we were chasing them. So that money's come back. So with that happening in place and with the department heads and things like that, we're finally, and what does that mean? Revenue neutral for the county is like 2.4, 2.5, somewhere on that. But again, revenue neutral doesn't do anything if everybody else goes up. Well, it's all one big package. So if we go down to, again, everybody that goes up, whether it be the schools, which are a prime one, or the cities, and a lot of times people don't get to see it. But I'll tell you one thing I am interested in, Baser. That proposal you did, because, we had to trying to get the state to do something with the cap. And there've been all kind of ideas to get up there, but they can't play nothing, so we didn't get anything really done, maybe a little touch on that. So, I'm probably going to talk to you about that. I'm pretty interested, or whatever my next job may be, because I didn't realize, I've just got a lot of questions on it. But I think it's a really outside the box idea to look at something.
Yeah. Well, and we had gone up a number of times to the Capitol to present on the FAP. And so, and so we just kind of decided, let's just try this ourselves. So we'll, we're still in our budget cycle as all the cities and counties are right now. So, but that's our hope is in August when we vote that we're gonna make this happen.
A lot of times you want it done, you have to do it on the local level.
Right.
So that's really looking at, so I'm just glad to hear that. I'll probably back about it.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all I have.
Good luck the next couple of weeks, buddy.
Oh, man, I'm tired.
That'd be good.
I tell you though, there's a lot of good people in Kansas, no matter who they vote for or which way they go. And politics can be dirty sometimes, but there's a lot of, from all the way out to, I forget names of the cities out far west, all around here, there's a lot of good people out here that really just wants the right people in there to do the right thing, and I'm glad it occurs.
Well, Leavenworth must be on their game plan somewhere because 2 of the lieutenant general, positions are from Leavenworth County. So.
Yeah, Jim and I spoke about a meeting we had, a presentation we had a couple of months ago. I thought that was pretty interesting, and just a good guy, so everything should work out fine.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, well, it's not as short as the last one, but we did well, I think. All in favor? Any opposed? That's it, thank you.
Want to add?
No, we should.
During a meeting.
You're out of the.